Hello and welcome to the Two Man Booth, your weekly scheduled podcast on the crazy world of professional wrestling. With me, Jonathan.
And me, Adam. And we will start this week as we always do with the news. And we've got to start with some sad news at the start this week, which is the fact that legendary Mexican wrestler Perro Aguayo has sadly passed away at the age of 73. He was a major star from the early 70s with the UWA and had a feud with legendary Lucha Libre star El Santo. He also helped form AAA in the early 90s, and obviously his son sadly passed away in a tragic in-ring accident in 2015. Our condolences go out to his family.
Yeah, I haven't seen him wrestle ever, but obviously our thoughts go out to his family and everyone involved.
Yeah, I've seen some of his older stuff, not a massive amount, and I saw quite a bit of his run right towards the end, because I think he worked up until about 2007, so I saw some of the early 2000 matches he had when he was teaming with his son and stuff.
Yeah, he worked for a long time.
He was clearly broken down and not very good at that point, but he was super charismatic.
Somebody who still gets how to get over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, either way, it's really sad news. And the next piece of news we have to talk about is the fact that Impact Wrestling may, and I will stress the word may, soon be airing on Access TV. Apparently the two sides are in discussion, and there's the idea of forming some kind of wrestling block on Saturday nights, which would see New Japan followed by Impact, followed by Women of Wrestling. So,
right, first off, this is brilliant. I have gradually over the last, 3 months or so, become a bigger and bigger fan of Impact. If you're not watching Impact Wrestling, you need to. It is not like blowaway or anything like that, but it is one of the most solid and consistent wrestling programs out there. And if they're looking at picking it up, I'll be in full-on support of that. I think it would be a great decision. And we've talked, haven't we, about possibly looking at doing a special pod for Slammiversary because of how well that show has been built.
Yeah, definitely. And Access TV is not the biggest channel in sort of North America, but it's a significant step up from the Pursuit channel, so that would be a good move for Impact.
Hey, Spike was good though, right?
Yeah. So Private Party have signed full-time contracts with AEW following their star-making performance at Fyter Fest. So it's cool that they've got them down, because they really showed, and we will come on to Fyter Fest a little later on, but they really showed themselves in a great light on the pre-show. That match was designed for them to get over, but they more than delivered, so it's good to see that they've been signed down, because I think they're the future of the tag division for AEW.
And at the same time, a show and a match can be designed for you to get over, but it's still up to you to get over.
Oh, without doubt.
And they got over, so, run with them.
They delivered in spades on that show.
Yeah.
And the final bit of news we need to talk about this week is the fact that Booker T has pulled out of StarCast 3, apparently after realising the war between AEW and WWE is, quote, very real.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Yeah. So, with that, we will move on to Monday Night Raw. Interesting show this week.
Different, wasn't it?
Different.
Different, good yeah. Different. Not necessarily massively better, but good different.
Yeah. So we open the show with a hyping of what is to come tonight before a production screw-up shows up. The Street Profits are there, which was sad that they kind of ruined that for me, because I would have popped for a surprise Street Profits appearance.
Yes, but also I love the fact that obviously Heyman was trying to do new things, but why were Street Profits there?
They were awesome on this show.
They were. I'm not disagreeing, but it's one of those things why?
Yeah.
But again, I think with Heyman in charge, we're gonna have to get used to this just random things happening and trying to bring in excitement.
I think there is an idea as well of when you are a new person in charge of a show, and I know he's not totally in charge, but he is.
He is apparently a lot of Meltzer said a lot of things ran through Heyman.
You could see there was a lot on this show that was very Heyman influenced.
Well, Meltzer said on the Observer that most of the decisions ran through Heyman on Monday. There was very little that didn't go through Heyman.
So we start with Braun Strowman versus Lashley in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Yes, we start with a wrestling match.
I was going to say.
So they start with big men doing junior heavyweight stuff until Lashley hits a spear that sends Braun to the outside. Strowman hits a shoulder tackle and a senton for 2. Lashley sends Strowman into the post and hits a spear into the timekeeper's area for a near fall. They brawl in the crowd and Lashley wails on Braun with a chair. Braun takes a long run up to hit a shoulder tackle for a near fall before beeling Lashley onto the stage. Lashley fights back and hits a suplex on the stage for 2. He sets up for a spear, but Strowman shoulder tackles Lashley through the Tron as there is a bunch of explosions, and Corey Graves says, "Holy bleep." Everything goes dark, and guys appear with fire extinguishers as refs check on the wrestlers. The crowd chants, "This is awesome," and the commentator stays silent until we return from break with Strowman and Lashley being stretchered away. This was a chaotic and notably totally different start to Monday Night Raw.
It was a Paul Heyman segment, right?
It really was.
Like, if ever a segment had Paul Heyman written all over it, this was it. I loved it. I loved it. And Braun has needed something, because, he's been so lost in the shuffle for, 4-5 months now?
Yeah, I think he's getting some time off mind on the back of this angle.
But he should. I think he needs that, and I think Heyman recognises that. Braun needs a time to then come back and be refreshed. I loved this segment, and there are rumours that one of the reasons why it happened was because they've got a new Tron that they're going to be bringing in, but
which would be cool.
You know what? Because one of the good things about Raw and SmackDown when they first started was that Raw and SmackDown's sets were different, and then they became
homogenized,
the same, which was the problem, right? If you're going to have them be separate again, then make them very clearly different. And I love the segment. It was different, so different, and I loved it.
Yep, totally agree. So next up we had New Day versus the Viking Raiders. Big E takes control early and hits an apron splash on Eric. I finally learned what Rowan Hansen's new names are, and I know which is which now, so I'm able to actually call them by their given names now.
Good.
Ivar comes in and hits the whoopee cushion on Big E. They continue to isolate Big E until he hits a belly-to-belly on Eric. He crawls for the tag, but a wild Samoa Joe appears and locks in the Coquina clutch on Xavier for the DQ. Post-match, Kofi comes down to make the save, but Ivar helps Joe beat him down until the refs separate the two teams. This was basically an angle to set up the 6-man tag that followed.
But absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Did not dislike it. And you, we were talking about this before we went on the air. I've been watching a lot of Heyman's work with Inside the Ropes. And Heyman said during one of those segments how much he thinks that Joe is one of the best workers in the world. And there's a good chance that Joe gets pushed on Raw.
Good.
If Heyman's in charge of Raw.
Good, because he deserves it.
Because he's one of the best wrestlers and one of the best heels or baby faces in the world of wrestling.
Well, we're skipping ahead, but he has a segment this week which is just out of this world, So when we came back from break, we had the 6-man tag as New Day took on the Viking Raiders and Samoa Joe. Kofi starts off hot against Ivar. He tags Xavier in and they work some double teams until the Joe distraction allows Ivar to lay out Xavier. The heels isolate Xavier and constantly cut off his attempted comebacks. Corey teases Kofi versus Joe being a ladder match, which was kind of a weird stipulation, but that was what he dropped in there.
It would make no sense.
Yeah, as Ivar holds Xavier in place for Joe to hit a senton for 2. Joe gets in Kofi's face and takes out Big E on the apron before eviscerating Xavier with an absolutely brutal chop that was very reminiscent of Joe versus Kobashi. Xavier manages to cut Joe off and hits a top rope missile dropkick before tagging in Kofi, who runs wild. He hits the boom drop on Eric, but Joe distracts him as he goes for Trouble in Paradise. Eric takes out Kofi with a knee strike, but Big E sends both Viking Raiders to the outside. Xavier wipes out Eric, but Ivar wipes him out with a Tope Suicida. Kofi lays out Ivar with Trouble in Paradise, but Joe locks on the Coquina clutch from behind and he passes out as Joe picks up a big win, and I believe Kofi's first loss in a match since Mania.
Yeah, and I loved it. Yeah. And I thought it had a really big impact and I know we've talked about the pass out finish being overdone, but when it's done right, it has a massive impact.
I liked it in this scenario.
Yeah, I loved it. I've always liked the pass out finish because it makes someone look strong, whereas protecting the guy that's then passing out.
Yeah,
I loved this.
So next up, Drake appears to have patched things up with his missus, but when she takes off her blindfold, she realises she's at Raw. She gives Drake an ultimatum. It's her or the 24/7 title. He eventually chooses her when Truth appears from behind them while they hug. He says he's a sucker for romance and walks away singing.
Yeah, I didn't like this.
Nah, I thought it was alright. It was weird, but it was alright.
I'm still yet to fall in love with the 24/7 stuff that's actually happening on the show.
Yeah. So we see the Good Brothers backstage. They meet with AJ. AJ says they looked good last week, but they lost. Anderson and Gallows say he didn't exactly dominate last week, and despite giving 100%, he nearly lost to Ricochet. But he did win, and is clearly the number 1 contender for Ricochet now. but they have a little side bet going. Anderson doesn't think AJ will win, but Gallows does. They've put Anderson's hot Asian wife on the line. People people are going to say get triggered too easily or whatever, but I really hated that line of him putting his wife up as part of the bet. It just seemed like needlessly misogynistic, and if that's going to further and play into the story or the character involved, then great. Otherwise, don't do it.
Like it doesn't make sense.
It was just unnecessary.
It's been done for shock factor, hasn't it?
But that aside, I thought this was good.
Yes, I do too. I think it's developing the whole coming heel turn of AJ Styles. And I liked it, but I just find that a bit of a weird line.
Yeah. So next up, we were preparing for Cesaro versus No Way Jose. Drake and his wife are in the front row. Truth is in Jose's conga line and taunts Drake by dancing with his wife. The dregs of the roster chase Truth around ringside and back up the ramp. And then Cesaro destroys Jose after this and hits a neutralizer on the floor, and the match never happens. I thought this was fine. Allowed Cesaro to look like he just absolutely annihilated somebody. Didn't need to have the match in. Maybe you can do No Way Jose versus Cesaro next week, and Cesaro can squash him. Like, I get the feeling Heyman likes Cesaro.
Well, he said this before. Like, Heyman talked about the fact that like he regrets Cesaro not getting over in how it was intended.
Yeah,
and he needs something though.
He does.
Like he can't.
But this is fine if you just want to start building him back up by having him destroy geeks. Then that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I agree. But in 2019, we talk about wrestling fans not having that much like long term, like they can't stick with long term booking.
Mm-hmm.
That's not correct. But I do think that you can't do the sort of long term just squash someone for ages booking.
I don't know. I worked with Ryback 6 years ago. The wrestling landscape's not changed that much.
6 years ago, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's changed more than you think.
The landscape's changed, but the fandom hasn't. Not to that degree.
I agree. Yeah. I agree with that. But I think the landscape's changed more. Like AEW has changed more than wrestling's changed more than you'd think.
No, I totally agree with that. But I still think you could do the Ryback push and it would absolutely work.
Yeah, done correctly.
Yeah. So, Rude interviewers with the Street Profits. Montez isn't happy with their intro. He starts to do a Rock impression, but Dalton stops him. They're here to bring the swag back to Raw. Ford sings that they want the smoke, whatever that means. I don't know what it means, but it was endlessly entertaining. I love the Street Profits.
They were here to save WWE.
Yeah.
Jericho had obviously said.
Do you know what they want the smoke means? Am I just not hip enough anymore?
I thought you were the one that was down with all the Street Profits stuff.
Well, I like the Street Profits.
You can't look
Doesn't
at
mean
me
I'm as cool as the Street
you
Profits.
You can't look at me and go like, "Do you get their stuff?"
No.
Like, no.
Granda Aspie over there.
I don't exactly. Like, I don't get them, but I kind of think they're awesome.
Renee and Sarah Schreiber then give us exactly the same update on Braun and Lashley before Sarah interviews Miz and shows Miz getting destroyed by Shane and Elias last week. She asks if he's ready for his 2 out of 3 Falls rematch tonight. Miz says he will destroy Elias as they continue to tease The Undertaker being here. I wrote that in my notes because I was half expecting with the way they've been doing things recently that the endless teasing of The Undertaker would lead to The Undertaker not showing up. But he in fact did.
Good.
So Shane and Drew are out next. Shane talks about last week saying it was the perfect setup for the demise of Roman Reigns. Roman knew he had no chance and was scared to death. He rolls some footage of last week's beatdown, cutting it off before Undertaker's appearance. Shane wants to focus on the dead man. Shane says Taker surprised them last Monday, but at Extreme Rules they're going to put Roman and Taker in the ground. Drew says he is no ordinary man and he isn't afraid of Taker. Thunder sounds around the arena, the lights go out and lightning hits the ring, and when the lights come back on, Undertaker's music plays. Taker makes his long entrance, which gives Drew and Shane plenty of time to escape. Taker says Roman never asked for his help, but says he appeared last week because he's going to collect their souls. Shane had Taker's respect for a while after their match at Shane-O-Mania, but he fell victim to his own greed and ego. He says they, as in Drew and Shane, will never rest in peace. This was a fine segment. Crowd went nuts for Undertaker. I don't care about the match, but like as a segment, it was fine.
Yeah, I agree. It was cool to see Taker. Like, it's always cool to see Taker. I don't want to see him wrestle anymore, but it's still awesome to see Taker. I just wish that Shane would go away, and I wonder how long it's going to take for him to write Shane off TV.
Well, he's Vince's son, so...
Depends how much control,
yeah,
as we talked about, how much control Heyman has.
So Lacey and Corbin are backstage. Corbin asks Seth if Becky is worth risking everything for. Lacey says Becky has placed all of her faith in Seth and his wandering eyes. This was just a weird segment, topped
Bad.
off by the fact that we returned to the arena after they'd finished speaking to see Taker do his pause at the top of the ramp.
Yeah.
What was that about?
Was this the first weird, like, bad segment of the show?
Oh, no, it wasn't the first weird one, but it was probably the first bad one. Yeah.
Yeah, bad segment. Yeah.
It was just, it didn't go too long, and it didn't outwardly offend me. It wasn't good, but it didn't outwardly offend me. It was just the really weird thing that you cut from Taker in the ring after his promo to Corbin and Lacey backstage. They cut their promo, and then you come back just to see Taker at the top of the ramp putting his arm in the air, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
We're not at ha, psst.
No, don't.
Yet.
Just don't. Right.
Because I can't wait to bury that segment so much.
So, Lacey versus Natalia's next. Lacey got a 2 count after the headstand Bronco Buster as Corbin cheered her on at ringside. The slingshot elbow got another near fall. Natalya fought back and despite a Corbin distraction reversed a schoolboy from Lacey to get a 2 count. Natty started to get the better of things, but Corbin tripped her from behind the ref's back, allowing Lacey to hit the woman's right for the win as we see Becky and Seth watching the TV from backstage. This was not very good, and I am no Lacey Evans fan. But similar to when I was no Baron Corbin fan a few weeks ago and I was like, why is he losing? Why does Lacey need Baron's help to beat Natalya? I mean, come on, it's not like Natalya's a super protected...
You know why? It's because they think a heel has to do heelish things. And they do.
They do, yeah.
But they also have to be credible.
But
Heels, succeed because they cheat. And that's fine. But heels also have to succeed because they also have a modicum of talent. They're just not as good as the babyfaces, and that's why they have to cheat. Like, that's the whole basis of heels and babyfaces in wrestling. The heels are worse, babyfaces are better, so the heels have to cheat.
Why did we love heel Bryan in sort of 2006 so much? It's because he was probably the best wrestler on that roster, but he still cheated.
Who was the perfect example of that?
Ric Flair.
Yeah. Flair was a good enough wrestler to win no matter what, but Flair would take the easy way out because he was just...
And that just makes you hate him more because you would look at somebody like Flair or somebody like Bryan and go, you can absolutely beat these people, but you're choosing to cheat. And it makes you hate them even more than just your regular heels.
It's like anyone in life, someone who's genuinely great at something that they do, but they either
take shortcuts,
suck up, or take shortcuts to get where they are, and they're good at what they do, but you kind of hate them for it.
Rude interviewer catches up with Ricochet backstage. She reminds him he lost to AJ last week. Ricochet says last week was an honour, but if the match were to happen again, he thinks he could beat him. Ricochet got lost for like a hot second there. He's a lot better than he used to be, but he's still not great on the mic.
It still comes across to like really robotic, doesn't it?
I think he just lost where he was in his promo, and he just kind of stumbled over what he was saying. It just came across a bit awkward.
He just doesn't say anything that like makes you go, ooh. Like everything's very, like, it furthers the angle, but that is all you can say. It furthers the angle.
At this point, the Good Brothers tip up. Anderson says AJ could have won even quicker, but he didn't want to embarrass Ricochet. Ricochet says he's always ready to defend his title. And then post-break, we see AJ meeting with the Good Brothers. They claim Ricochet said a lot of arrogant stuff about him and how easy it would be to beat AJ. AJ wants to go have a word with Ricochet, but Anderson says for all AJ's talk about them losing their edge, he wonders where AJ's edge has gone. He says the AJ from Japan would go up to Ricochet, accept the challenge and slap him across the face. AJ walks and finds Ricochet. He gets in Ricochet's face and says he's taking the title tonight. Ricochet accepts and offers AJ his hand, but AJ slaps him, which the crowd popped for, and Ricochet slaps him back, which the crowd popped for. AJ smiles and says this is going to be good. This was absolutely
brilliant.
Awesome.
Heyman segment.
This was one of the best things on Monday Night Raw this week.
This was a Heyman segment by a country mile. Loved it.
It just AJ, Anderson, Gallows, Ricochet, everybody in this segment delivered.
It's fantastic, and I am very much liking what they've been doing with the club development so far.
Yeah. So next up we had Miz versus Elias in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Miz interrupts Elias just as he starts to perform. He attacks before the bell rings and beats Elias all over the ringside area. Miz hits skull-crushing finale immediately after the bell rings to go up 1-0. Miz goes for the figure 4, but Elias cradles him for 2. Elias sends Miz to the apron, pulls him back in and hits Drift away to make it 1-1. 2 falls in 2 minutes just so they can stand around for 3 minutes while we go to a break. This is so stupid, it is beyond infuriating.
I wonder how long it'll take before Heyman tries to get out of
Well,
that.
I hope he's able to, but
I'm not sure he will.
No.
And it's going to, Heyman...
It is, we'll get onto it later on because I have a little bit of a rant in me notes later on about it, but That's just so
If
stupid.
anyone can get out of it in a decent way, it will be Paul Heyman.
So Elias hits a sit-out powerbomb for 2. Miz then gets a backslide for 2, but Elias hits the crossroads, which gets a near fall. They end up on the apron, and Elias goes for the knee strike, but it eats the post. Miz takes advantage, rolling him back in and locking on the figure 4, and Elias taps as Miz wins the 2 out of 3 falls match 2-1. This was fine, but was unnecessarily 2 out of 3 falls, and honestly, these two do not have any in-ring chemistry whatsoever.
No, it doesn't have to happen anymore.
No.
And Miz is so directionless at the moment.
Oh, he is, totally.
Like, he should have won the feud with Shane. Like, that's obviously very clear. And Shane didn't need to really beat him and move on to Heyman because move on to Roman.
Yeah.
Because he's Shane McMahon. It didn't really matter. And Miz needs something badly now and quite quickly.
So next up we had Rude Interviewer. She is with Becky and Seth. She asks them if their decision to accept the challenge last week was impulsive. They do some haughty comedy where Becky doesn't want to call him impulsive. They worry about each other losing the other's titles. Becky sleeps with her title apparently, which Seth claims is becoming a bit of a problem. Seth says he's not impulsive and starts to get quite shirty with Becky, and she shoots him a look which kills his momentum dead. He says maybe he got lucky and they do some awful forced couple stuff. Don't. Thankfully, Maria arrives, but no, the segment must continue to be death, as she says she wants a title for pushing an 8-pound baby out of her uterus. Long story short, we get a mixed tag match, and Seth walks away after Becky storms off, telling Mike and Maria, "Y'all done messed up." I mean, what was this? It was tragically bad. This was one of the worst segments I've seen on TV in a long time.
It was bad, wasn't it?
It was
awful.
It
wasn't. It was a combination of bad writing,
bad acting,
and bad acting and awkwardness. Like, have you ever seen two people who are very obviously like have chemistry, have so little chemistry together?
Yeah.
Like Rollins and Becky, it's like they're not even going out. Like, I totally believe that they are very close in real life and
Is it not
have
like
a relationship, but like, wow.
Is it not like that episode of Friends where
Joey and Rachel?
No, the
Can't get together.
It's the episode where I can't remember who it is tells them, but somebody tells Chandler that if there's no heat on stage between Kathy
it's
and
to do with
Kathy's the
Kathy
girl,
and, yeah. If there's no chemistry on stage, then there must be loads of chemistry because
off
they've
the
obviously
stage.
already.
Well, maybe that's truer than we thought.
Like, genuinely, like there was not like it was just the bad acting of psst, psst. Like,
well, that was bad, but then it was
both act.
It was the coupley stuff towards the end as well, where he's like, then that's so lucky, and she's like, yeah, you are, and I'm like, just stop, will you?
Like, you're making me sick, and not in a good way.
So Renee has unconfirmed reports that Braun may have a ruptured spleen. And then we had Becky and Seth versus Mike and Maria. Just like the segment before was bad, this may have been even worse. As Mike and Maria walk to the ring, Corey asks Cole if he has any kinks. Wow, that was a sentence I could have gone the rest of my life without hearing. I don't want to know what Michael Cole's kinks are. Thank you very much. What? Why?
So bearing in mind, I'm pretty sure I remember in the actual him interviewing someone in a shower.
Yeah. Well, there was also the infamous Heidenreich segment, which we will not go into because
that wasn't his
scarred
kink.
Me for life.
That wasn't his kink. That was very much
That's not a kink. That is not a kink. That's a criminal offence, not a kink.
Yeah, that's why we don't see him on TV anymore.
Yeah. So this is a really weird show.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah. Seth dominates Mike as the crowd chants for Becky. He hits a buckle bomb and a super kick before forcing Mike to tag Maria. Maria climbs down from the apron and grabs a mic. It won't work at first. She screams at Mike that he was supposed to protect her. He disgusts her. Becky goes to punch her, but Maria says she's pregnant.
Can you hear me cringing?
Becky walks away as Mike looks shocked and asks how she's pregnant. She says she doesn't know because she doesn't know if he's man enough to get her pregnant.
Oh.
Becky pulls Mike in and taps him out to disarm her. Despite this being under mixed tag rules, so that
is illegal.
Yeah. And the fact that he wasn't the legal man anyway, since Maria tagged in. But that's the least of our problems. This was utterly horrendous.
Get your shovels out.
And then post-match, Becky and Seth just leave as Maria gets back in the ring and says she can't believe that Mike is the father of her children. She calls him a disappointment and says the only man here tonight was Becky, so maybe next time she'll ask Becky to impregnate her. She leaves as Mike looks sad. What the hell was this?
So this would be okay if this wasn't actually the mother of someone's children.
No, this would not have been an acceptable segment, regardless of whether Mike and Maria were really together.
I totally agree, but
sucks.
I totally agree on that. But does it not make it worse that they've actually made two people who are,
I guess,
legitimately together in real life, the wife bury the husband on live TV?
I guess from the children's perspective. I mean, if the children ever
imagine
see
watching
that.
your man bury your dad on live TV.
Yeah.
Does it
then again, can you imagine Edge's kids growing up and watching the live sex celebration?
Dad, I've seen a segment. There's a bed.
It's got Lita involved.
It's got our Auntie Lita in it. It's weird.
Right. Anyway, let's move on because that was all-time burial. Anyway, not Edge.
Yeah, and one of the worst I've ever seen.
That was an all-time burial. So we cut the rude interviewer who struggles for words. She's not the only one. Paul Heyman tips up and teases Brock being here tonight, because of course he does. Street Profits approach and Ford does the Heyman-Brock intro. Heyman doesn't have time for them because he's a busy man, so leaves. The Street Profits practically cry. The Street Profits are a national treasure. I've announced it in the United Kingdom. I don't care what the Queen says. The Street Profits are now a national treasure. Alexa introduces her best friend Nikki as her guest. Alexa shows Nikki picking up a win over Bayley last week. Nikki says she would never have achieved this without Alexa's support. She will always be grateful for Alexa taking her seriously. Alexa says this is Nikki's moment of bliss, and Carmella interrupts. Mella questions why if Nikki won the match is Alexa getting the title match. Mella says Alexa is using Nikki. Alexa calls Mella a sidekick, so Carmella wants a match with Alexa. Carmella rolls Alexa up and beats Alexa immediately. Great booking of the number one contender there. And then literally went 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And then we get Nikki versus Carmella. When we come back from the break, this match has been made as apparently Alexa made a challenge. Nikki gets the heat, but Mella soon fights back and hits the Bronco Buster for 2. Nikki fights back and hits a swinging neckbreaker for the win. This was fine and furthered the Alexa-Nikki angle, which I'm actually kind of digging. And I just kind of hate the idea of Alexa losing the earlier match when she's facing the champion at the next pay-per-view. You can make the argument that Nikki's the real star and Alexa is sort of riding her coattails because Alexa's going to be the heel and Nikki's going to be the babyface going into their eventual feud. That's all fine. But Alexa losing to Carmella, even in a fluky fashion, via roll-up in 3 seconds, is something that doesn't need to happen. If you want to have Alexa go out there and show off and get cocky or something 9 minutes into the match and start doing Bayley's moves to Carmella or something, and then she gets caught and rolled up, fine. But her losing in such quick fashion, and you know what? In the end, don't book that match.
No, I agree.
Just have Carmella come out to make a challenge to Alexa, but Alexa won't face it because she's a chicken. So Nikki stands up for her friend, and Nikki beats Carmella because you're then still further in the angle. Just don't do the match.
Yeah, it's bad booking.
Yeah. So we see Alexa and Nikki walking backstage before Sarah Schreiber approaches and asks Nikki how she would react if she knew the fans wanted to see Nikki face Bayley for the title at Extreme Rules instead of Alexa. Alexa says no comment. And then Drake and his wife walk backstage. He says he knows the last few months have been tough, but he promises the honeymoon will be great. She leaves to freshen up as the 24/7 dudes run past. Truth hides and pops out to see Drake. Drake says he just wants to go on his honeymoon and he's done chasing Truth. Truth goes to leave and Drake whacks him with his suitcase and wins the title. Drake's wife appears and Drake says he knows he promised this was done, but now they can do the honeymoon 24/7. Because apparently a honeymoon's only 9 till...
Sex jokes.
9 till 5. Only 9 till 5.
They
just do the Dolly Parton honeymoon. That's all they do.
You know what they were going for.
Yeah. He tells her to leave his bag, which was funny. I actually did like that line. Forget my suitcase. Forget all my clothes. We're going on my honeymoon. I don't need to wear stuff.
I'll just wear the title the whole time.
I did like that bit.
I actually quite... I'm going to say it's cautiously.
Yeah. I quite like the second.
I quite like this.
Yeah.
It was as much as I hate Drake being the one who's doing this, it's entertaining, isn't it? At times.
That was fun. That was a fun segment.
Yeah.
So next up we had Ricochet versus AJ for the United States Championship. There was quite a cool sequence where we see Ricochet walking towards the entrance area as AJ's music hits, and we switch to the arena to see AJ making his entrance. It was just a small thing, but I did really like it.
Yeah.
Just cool. Ricochet went for a running shooting star, but AJ got the knees up and cradled him for 2. A rolling shotgun dropkick sends AJ at the outside, and Ricochet follows with the twisting tope con hello. AJ winds up on the apron and hits a phenomenal forearm and pins Ricochet despite Ricochet's foot being under the bottom rope. Another ref comes out to tell the first ref as we find more and more convoluted ways to avoid wrestling during ad breaks. This is ridiculous.
It's getting worse, isn't it?
Yeah. When we come back, the match restarts and Gallows and Anderson are at ringside. Ricochet hits the corkscrew suplex for 2. He rolls through on a Phoenix splash attempt but sends AJ to the outside. He goes for the twisting tope again and lands on his feet as AJ rolls back in and hits a slingshot forearm. He rolls him back in and hits a snap brainbuster for a near fall, like a proper snap brainbuster as well. AJ goes for a Styles Clash, but Ricochet flips out, but AJ catches him and hits a rack bomb for 2. AJ takes Ricochet to the top, but Ricochet fights him off and jumps into a lucha-style cradle for the win as both AJ and the Good Brothers look disappointed. This was good, but if they'd just given them 10 minutes, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah,
rather than doing a 3-minute match where AJ wins and then we do the confusion and then we come back and we get another 3-minute match.
Yeah.
Like, just have them wrestle like an 8-minute match.
This is the whole problem with the whole...
No wrestling during ad breaks.
The ad breaks, rubbish.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. Like, it's not as if this has never happened in wrestling before. It's just rubbish. Get rid of it. Like, no one has ever had any problem with wrestling during ad breaks. Like, have you ever gone, man, it's so true they keep going through the ad break.
Me and you do occasionally complain that they put important stuff during the ad breaks, but we've never actually had a problem with wrestling during the ad breaks. Do you know what I mean?
But then
I just have a problem when you come back and all of a sudden the heels have got the heat and you go, why do I care? You've not even bothered to show me how the heels have got the heat.
Difference.
So why do I care about the fact that the babyfaces are in trouble?
I don't mind if important stuff happens during the ad break. Just show me it happening.
Yeah,
It doesn't bother me. Like, if the heels suddenly get the upper hand, like they always used to. Show me how they got, like, oh, well, this move happened and, the Revival were able to get the upper hand in this way, and now it's why the Revival are on top.
Yeah.
Like,
but
I know I'm applying logic here, mate, but that seems very simple.
Yeah. But post-match, awesome things happened.
Oh, muchos awesomeness.
AJ shakes Ricochet's hand, but then when Gallows and Anderson get on the apron, AJ turns and smashes Ricochet in the face. Gallows and Anderson get in and hit Magic Killer. They pass Ricochet up to AJ, who hits the Styles Clash from the middle rope. The club is back. They're too sweet before AJ beats Ricochet down some more. This felt a little rushed, and I wish they'd built it up a wee bit longer, but it was a great closing angle. Great to see the club back together. I think this could be a really positive angle going forward.
Same. It felt really rushed.
Mm-hmm. Felt like they did a month's worth of TV in one show.
Yeah.
In terms of their angle.
Yeah. But I really liked it.
Yeah.
And I think Heyman's probably desperate to, like, accelerate things.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I usually hate the idea of burning through a month's worth of stuff in a week. But
the month's worth of stuff they had have been rubbish.
It's not even that. It's the fact that they have done it on a reset show, essentially, which this kind of felt a little bit like a reboot show.
Yeah.
And like, I almost think that Heyman wants to get to Extreme Rules, do the angles that they've got going at the minute,
and then
but he needs
his own stuff.
But he needs to set stuff up for what he's going to do going forward at the same time, because I think he wants to hit the ground running the day after Extreme Rules.
And I think the club will be a big part of Raw moving forward.
Certainly do.
As long as they, like I said, I've said this 1,000 times, as long as they recruit and they recruit well and they pick the right people, it could be a great angle.
As long as they just run roughshod across the roster.
But they need more than 3.
They do, but yeah.
5 will be an acceptable number.
This was an interesting episode of Raw. Some downright awful stuff, but some really good stuff too, and it was not boring. Never boring, which is a change from the usual stuff. You could tell there had been a significant culture change. You could feel Heyman's influence, but there was still Vince-shaped fingerprints over certain aspects of the show. A decent start, though. Let's see what we're seeing in 4 to 6 weeks' time.
Yeah, it was a massively, like, Heyman heavy show. You could tell there was things he was definitely putting in place, and then you still got that little hangover of the Vince stuff, and you can tell there's changes coming, and we could see it, but it's going to take time.
Yeah, that's, like I said, the big line for me in my notes that stands out was a decent start. Let's see what we're seeing in 4 to 6 weeks' time. Yeah. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Like, anybody can do one show. Vince Russo was king of the reboot show.
Yeah.
He just couldn't book past the reboot show.
But Paul Heyman.
I've got a lot of faith in Heyman. But what I'm saying is, let's not get too excited, because yes, this was a much more interesting episode of Raw. It still had some bad stuff, but let's not get carried away. Let's see where we are in a month.
The
2 months' time.
comparison is that we've thought a 7 out of 10 was like the peak of Raw in the last few months. Like, this was a 7 out of 10.
6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah, and it's got plenty of room to grow.
Yeah. So, in good news for us, given this show was an improvement, Raw was up 10% in the viewership stakes this week. The show averaged 2.5 million viewers. Hour 1 drew 2.47. Hour 2 was actually up for once at 2.68 million. And Hour 3 drew 2.35 million. That is a definitive turnaround, because the Hour 1 to Hour 3 drop was just 5% this week. The show was also only down 8% from last year, which, whilst not good, is still better than the 20+% drop we've been seeing for the majority of this year. Early days, as we've said, but this is good news for the show so far.
And I wonder if that was people that haven't watched, that know that Heyman is now in charge. That 18 to 35 demographic.
Certainly there is an element of
curiosity. Because Heyman's in charge.
Like, there's an element of, it's a different world now. Like, if Heyman had taken charge of the show
in 2005,
even in like, well, I was going to go so far back as like 97, 98.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I don't believe it would have had any kind of impact on the ratings whatsoever, because the 99.9% of the wrestling fans would not have known that there was any difference in terms of, they wouldn't have tuned into the first show, because they wouldn't have known Heyman was booking the show.
But like by 05 or something, they would have noticed.
More so.
Yeah.
But now I think we live in a world where there's a lot more fans out there that know what goes on behind the scenes and keeps up with the behind the scenes news.
And they'd like to go back to the stuff that Heyman was doing.
So they see that, and I think there will have been an element of people tuning in out of curiosity. Did you notice during, when they were lying backstage and the commentators weren't talking just after Braun and Lashley went through the board at the top, through the Tron, and they're both lying there, and the commentators aren't saying anything? There was a distinct, not loud, I wouldn't say, but there was a distinct "Thank you, Heyman" chant, which was interesting. So there's clearly a significant subset of their audience
who are happy that Heyman's in charge,
but that know it's going on.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it possibly will have had an effect on the ratings,
because it's not casual fans. Like we've spoken before, that then they don't need to cater towards casual fans anymore. It's the hardcore fans they need to cater towards,
because that's all they've got left.
That's their fan base now.
Yeah. So with that, we will move on to SmackDown Live. We open with an update on the condition of Lashley and Braun. Lashley was released whilst Braun has multiple fractures and a possible ruptured spleen. We start the show off with the Kevin Owens show. Shane and Drew are his guests. Owens shows footage from last night, and Shane says he's not afraid of Undertaker, announcing that the match at Extreme Rules will be no holds barred. KO mocks Shane and Drew, intimating that they were scared, and Shane tells him to read the cue cards as agreed. KO does, but then moves on to a cue card he clearly hadn't told them about, and asks Shane about losing to Taker at Shane-O-Mania a few years ago. Drew gets angry as Dolph arrives. KO launches into a hilarious speech where he says, and I've wrote this down verbatim, "It should have been you. Yeah, it should have been you 8 years ago, and it was kinda, then it wasn't, and it's not going to happen, so just get over it."
Yeah, it was
just like, oh, Owens is so good.
It was good.
Yeah. So Dolph says he should be champ, whilst Owens looks like he should be in a hot dog eating contest. KO says at least he'd win that contest, unlike Dolph in wrestling matches. They actually said wrestling as well.
Love that line as well.
Yeah.
Not pro wrestling, though.
No. KO asks Shane who is more deserving of a title shot. Shane says neither, but books them versus Heavy Machinery, with the winner being added to the New Day versus Planet Champs at Extreme Rules. After a very different Raw, this was your bog standard WWE opening segment.
Wasn't it?
But KO is backface again, which I guess is a good thing. It wasn't bad, it was just played out.
As much as we say, though, like this is like your standard opening segment, like Bischoff won't,
Yeah, well, you could.
Bischoff may do a 15-minute opening segment.
No, don't remind me. You could clearly tell that Bischoff wasn't here this week. You could, just watching the show, you could tell he wasn't involved.
I have heard it, but I don't remember it perfectly. But I'm pretty sure that I remember Meltzer saying that Bischoff's first SmackDown is a SmackDown
after Extreme Rules.
After Extreme Rules, yeah. So it's not Bischoff's SmackDown yet.
No. And this was quite clear on the show, to be fair.
Yeah.
So Brian and Rowan walk. This week in Rowan's Metal Tees, Rowan is wearing an Upon a Burning Body shirt. Not my favourite, but whatever. Kayla asks them about the opening segment, and Brian says he's not happy about Shane's announcement, but has to accept it. They will walk out of Extreme Rules, still champs. When we come back, Kayla has now found Big E and Xavier. Xavier isn't a fan of the decision either, but they are ready for a fight and will reclaim their tag belts. And then we got Brian versus Big E. They work back and forth early with neither man able to get the upper hand for long until Brian executes a chop block. Good lad. He works over E's knee with a half crab and kicks, taking advantage of the prior injury to that knee. Big E fires up, and though Brian tries to fight back, E hits a belly-to-belly and hits the running splash for 2. He goes for the suicide spear, but Brian moves and goes for the tope suicida, but E cuts him off with a forearm. Rowan sends E into the post and rolls him back in before taking out Xavier, and Brian hits the Busaiku knee for the win. This was as good as an 8-minute match as you'll see.
Totally agree.
I don't think anybody could have gone out there and had a better 8-minute match than this, apart from maybe Shibata and Ishii, but like... As sprint, fun, TV, 8-minute matches go, this was awesome.
And Brian getting the win, because he's been sort of like not treated as well lately.
Yeah, it was a dirty clean win, wasn't it?
Yeah, agreed.
So Truth is interviewed by Kayla. She wants to show the footage from last night, but Truth begs her not to. Eventually she does anyway. Truth has trouble remembering his own honeymoon, but says Hornswoggle is honeymooning in San Antonio. And Swoggle, I'm coming for you. Any time anyone says that line, I go back to that infamous Booker T promo in my mind.
Which one?
We coming for you. I can't say any more than that.
No, I wouldn't if I were you.
Yeah.
Because we like having this being up on the internet.
Yes, and I also like being a nice person and not saying that word.
That too.
Truth wants his baby back, i.e. the 24/7 title. We see
24/7. I thought it was 48.
I think he called it the 7. The
48/7
7. I think he called it the 7-11 European Championship this time, if I remember correctly.
Isn't that
that's a shop
in America?
Yeah. So we see Nikki and Alexa walking backstage. Alexa says Nikki gets to host Moment of Bliss tonight. So Moment of Bliss is next. Nikki plays up the socially awkward side of herself really well here. She thanks the person she admires the most, Alexa, and tells Bliss that she loves her. She's going to do her best to be the best host possible because she knows she has an accent and stuff. Nikki introduces Bayley as her guest. Bayley is impressed that Alexa is giving Nikki some spotlight. Nikki asks the tough questions and wants to know why Bayley called Alexa a liar. Bayley says, ding dong, because she is. Nikki says that's not the Alexa that she knows. Bayley runs through Nikki beating her last week, Carmella on Monday, whilst Alexa has done neither of these things, yet Bayley is facing Alexa instead of Nikki at Extreme Rules. Why is that? Nikki says she doesn't know, but what she wants to know is why she isn't facing Bayley right now. Bayley says if that's a challenge, then she accepts. Another good segment to build things here. Honestly, this is genuinely one of the most well-crafted storylines I've seen them do in a while. It's very obvious and predictable, but that's not always a bad thing, and it has been entertaining at times. It's not been entertaining every time. There has been some duff segments, but most of them have been good, and honestly, I feel like... I'm not saying Nikki get a lot of crowd reaction yet, but I genuinely think if they keep the storyline going,
it's gonna get her over.
When Alexa turns on Nikki, or Nikki realises what's going on and turns on Alexa, whichever way they decide to do it, I think Nikki will get really over.
Yeah, I agree. I don't love it, but I very much like it. And at first, I was a bit like, oh, this is just so boring and predictable. But you know what? Predictability in wrestling is not a bad thing, and I do like this, and I do agree with you. And it fits all of their characters at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't like how they've blandified.
Nikki.
That's a word.
Yeah.
Nikki's character, but it's working, so I can't complain.
So we got Bayley versus Nikki next. Bayley runs wild immediately and gets an element of heat on Nikki. Nikki counters with a jawbreaker and sends Bayley to the outside. When they come back in, Nikki hits a top rope crossbody for 2. She hits a bulldog and sets up for the swinging neckbreaker, but Bayley counters into a backslide for 2. Nikki heads up top and goes for a tornado DDT, but Bayley counters and hits the Bayley to belly for the win. This was fine. I would have liked them to go a bit longer, but for what it was decent with Bayley getting her win back to keep her strong, but Nikki still having the wins that Alexa doesn't, even if she lost this one, so it was fine.
Totally agree.
Ali cuts a gritty promo in a car park somewhere. He talks about his face and his name, and what he believes in, not defining him as a person, and speaks to people that look like him and have names like him and believe in what he believes in, and believe that that does define them. When he becomes WWE champion, he's going to change their mind. This was an absolutely awesome promo from Ali, and I like the subtlety of what they're doing here. It was something very 205 Live-ish. This is the type of promo
like
that you would have seen him cut on 205 Live. I loved it. I love Ali. Push this man to the moon.
Yeah,
I really do hope Bischoff sees what I see in Mustafa Ali.
So do I. Like, you guys know I love 205 Live. It's my favourite WWE show. And this felt exactly like the segments that they used to do with him on 205 Live, where he comes across as so real, and like a real human being, and it's really hard when he comes across like that, not to just buy into him totally. Yeah. Loved it.
So next up, it's time for our segment of the week, and what a segment it was. Kayla is in the ring to host a segment with Kofi and Joe. When Joe comes down, he says he and Kofi are about to discuss some sensitive issues, so in the interest of limiting collateral damage, he suggests Kayla should leave. He says what he just did was an act of generosity, something Kofi is familiar with, as the New Day are always being generous to Kofi. Joe recognises the hustle because where he uses fear, Kofi uses charisma. He plays the nice guy, but Joe knows the truth. Kofi is using the fans and the New Day. Someday soon, Xavier will be his hype man, and Big E will just be his butler. Kofi points out that he won the title against Bryan by himself, and beat KO and Dolph by himself, and at Extreme Rules, he will beat Joe by himself. Kofi asks what Joe has done recently, besides losing the US title to Ricochet. He wants to know what happened to the old Joe who would face people head on, instead of the new Joe, who hides and sneak attacks people from behind. After all, Joe's a bit big to be playing hide and seek. Joe laughs and says this is what he's talking about. Kofi is always prepared with a line. Like at Mania, when he rolled out his family in his new shirt and posed on the top rope to hold that title real high. Kofi said he knew the family thing was coming and calls him Jealous Joe. Kofi says Joe will never have a Mania moment like Kofi had to share with his kids. Joe wants to prove his point and break people's willful ignorance. He wants a handshake from Kofi, and if Kofi obliges, Joe promises the safety of everyone Kofi cares about, all the way until Extreme Rules. Kofi flips him off and hits Trouble in Paradise. Okay, this was absolutely awesome. Both guys brought their A+ promo game. Joe is just absolutely unreal, and Kofi stepped to a new level. Like, I think this might be the best promo I've ever seen Kofi cut.
Agreed.
I loved everything about this, and if this leads to Joe running around for the next couple of weeks annihilating everyone that Kofi cares about, then I'm even more about it than I already was.
It's going to make it a great angle, isn't it?
Do you remember there was an angle in NXT where Regal, I think Regal he'd injured Nakamura or something, and Joe wanted Regal to just give him the title back, because I think he lost it to Nakamura, but then he'd assaulted him. And Joe then just said, if you don't give me my title back, I'm just going to go and run roughshod over everybody. And he just came out and he would interrupt matches and beat people down. He was beating people down backstage, and I thought that angle was awesome. I think this angle could be awesome, but either way, this promo was phenomenal from both guys. It feels
like Joe being Joe again.
It does. This is the best promo I've seen Joe cut in a long time,
and Joe's a great promo,
and he cuts great promos on a weekly basis. Really,
he's arguably one of the better promo guys they have. And you know what? Way back when, I would never say that was Joe's forte.
I always thought Joe was really strong on promos.
But it wasn't his forte.
But it wasn't the best thing about him. I
Joe's
always think
aura was what was great about Joe's, just that he's just going to beat you up no matter what.
Yeah. But great segment.
Loved it.
So Sarah Schreiber interviews Heavy Machinery. They talk about their opportunity tonight. They scout their opponents, and Owens and Ziggler are not a team like they are. And then we see a selfie promo from Lashley who says Braun got exactly what he deserves, because what Braun did last night wasn't wrestling. He knew exactly what he was doing and he didn't care. He says next time he sees Braun, he's not going to send him to the hospital. He's going to send him to the morgue.
Hell in a Cell, I think, is coming.
Yeah, it could be.
It would make sense to me.
It would fit as well, yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense to me.
So when we come back, we've got Andrade versus Apollo. Neither guy gets an entrance, which is slightly sad. Andrade beats Apollo down at the bell and hits the double knees for 2. Apollo clotheslines Andrade to the outside and hits the apron moonsault to Andrade. I'm so glad we can have wrestling during ad breaks on SmackDown. But when I wrote that line, I thought we could have wrestling during ad breaks because obviously we're in the UK, so we get the Sky Sports version of the show. So we got an advert break. But what I didn't realise is in the States, on some of the advert breaks on USA, they're allowed to show the action screen, and the adverts are only a small portion of the screen, and
So you still see
the wrestling. So they allow them to do wrestling during those ad breaks. But as we will find out later on, i.e. during the main event, you still can't have wrestling during actual ad breaks in the States. Annoying.
Genius.
Yeah. So Andrade heads up top, but Apollo catches him with an enziguri and hits a gorilla press, followed by a standing moonsault for a near fall. Andrade hits a spinning elbow strike and follows with a plancha, but Apollo catches him. Zelina hits a Hurricane Rana on Apollo, and Andrade rolls him back in before hitting the hammerlock DDT for the win in a fun, albeit short match. It was fun.
It was fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine.
So Ziggler is backstage when KO approaches. KO says this has very little chance of working unless they have a plan. Both men have a plan where they do all the work and the other stands on the outside. KO says maybe Shane has a point, and Dolph eventually goes along with it. KO wants hot dogs. Dolph says fine afterwards. This was fine. Like it was these two are actually really good at comedy.
Yes, they are.
So they bounced off each other well here, and it was fine to set up what was coming in the main event.
I didn't mind it.
So Aleister Black opened his door last week and no one was there. Oh, come on.
I know.
Like, when I saw this, I was just like...
So someone's playing knocky and don't run.
Knock, door, run.
Or knocky and run on Aleister Black.
Yeah.
Either, like, what was the point?
Yeah, well, I was really annoyed by that, but we're slightly saved, though, as Black says he will be at Extreme Rules, and he wants to see whoever knocked on his door there, because apparently this was some form of mind games, according to Aleister Black.
I think
knock, door, run is mind games.
Does Matt Hardy not...
I think it's Bray Wyatt.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think this is where we debut Bray.
I think that's going to suck.
Or re-debut Bray.
Doesn't make sense.
It makes sense, but
Matt would make more sense to me.
My fear is that Bray then beats Black, and I really don't want Black losing his first match.
Oh, make him look so bad. Matt would make sense to me. And Matt could lose.
Where's Matt been?
He's been woken.
Yeah, he got destroyed by Lars, didn't he, before Lars got injured?
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't even know. That's how bad.
So next up, we have Ember versus Mandy. Mandy hits a lovely tilt-a-whirl facebuster for a near fall. She gets heat on Ember, and the referee nearly falls over Ember, which was funny. She hits the bicycle knee for a 2 count, but Ember fights back with a middle rope springboard cord break and then hits the Eclipse for the win. This was short, but good for what it was, and furthers the Ember and Carmella versus Fire and Desire feud. I just wish when they had matches like this, they'd give them a little more time, because this went like 2 minutes, and what it was fine. Mandy is continually improving, and Ember's really good. Yeah. So it was fine for what it was. 2-minute matches.
And yes, and there was less lesbianism.
Well, there was zero lesbianism this week.
Yes, which was...
So it may have been dropped.
Maybe they've dropped that, which is, I think, a good thing, because
you
don't need to force it in people's faces.
I just don't trust them to handle it with the subtlety it deserves.
No. This is the same company with Katie Beck.
We then have the weirdest segment of the week next. Shelton is asked who he why are we asking Shelton anyway? Can I just ask that
Shelton's
first?
Still employed?
Why are we asking Shelton who will win the WWE Championship?
Because we all care what Shelton thinks.
So somebody off screen asked him who will win the WWE Championship at Extreme Rules, and he just looks confused as his eyes dart across the screen all over, like he's thinking really hard, but he's also confused. And this goes on for about 30 seconds, and then he smiles, and then he leaves. What?
Is Shelton going
This may be one of the weirdest segments I've ever seen.
Is Shelton going to interfere? Because if he did, that would be genius.
Oh my god.
Can you honestly imagine if
Shelton Benjamin versus Kofi Kingston title feud?
Yeah. The gold standard returns. I used to love the gold standard in ECW, man. I used to love him in that gimmick.
Yeah. So next up we had our main event of Heavy Machinery versus Dolph Ziggler and Kevin Owens. The winner obviously gets inserted into the title match between the Planet's Champions and the New Day at the pay-per-view. So New Day have their own commentary desk. Bryan and Rowan are with the regular commentators. Bryan and Xavier argue about the state of the tag division as Owens and Ziggler make their entrances. Bryan is absolutely phenomenal on commentary, as we've mentioned before, at building a feud whilst putting over his opponents at the same time. And then all of a sudden, early on in the match, for absolutely no reason, New Day attack Bryan and Rowan. Bryan lays out Big E with the Busaiku knee, and Rowan hits an Iron Claw slam on Xavier through the New Day announce desk. We've went back to the no wrestling during ad breaks for some reason, and when we return, they have had to restart the match because of the pre-break chaos. Stupid.
Stupid.
KO and Dolph get the heat on Tucker, showcasing some good teamwork until Tucker hits a middle rope reverse crossbody on KO. Both men got tags, and Otis runs wild. He hits an aeroplane scoop slam, like an airplane spin, but with a scoop slam. It was weird. I've never seen anybody do it before, but I liked it. Dolph then hits a satellite DDT for 2. Owens tags in and hits the super kick, but Otis sends him to the floor. Otis takes out Dolph and hits the caterpillar, but KO hits a super kick. He goes for a stunner, but Otis throws him off. Dolph goes for a super kick, but Otis ducks and Dolph hits Owens instead. Tucker takes Dolph out, and then Heavy Machinery hit the compactor on Owens for the win. Post-match, Dolph aggressively picks KO up and eats a stunner for his trouble. The show goes off the air as Owens is ranting about this being his show, and you can hear the referee screaming very audibly, "Say it to the hard cam."
Oh.
Yeah. So this was a decent episode of SmackDown. It didn't feel vastly different in the same way that Raw did, which made it obvious that Bischoff hadn't started yet, which was something, as we've mentioned, that later was confirmed. But it did have some good stuff, and that Joe Kofi segment was exceptional. We do need to end this no wrestling during ads thing, though. It absolutely kills the flow of the show. It's just so bad.
Vince's latest pet project.
Well, hopefully it is Vince's latest pet project, and it ends soon.
Like the Superstar Shake-Up, or like
the wild card, because apparently that's like people can just appear on both shows now. We're not talking about wild cards.
That is just dead. Like the brand split is dead.
Yeah. So SmackDown viewership, in contrast to Raw, SmackDown drew 1.89 million viewers, which was down 2% from last week, and the show only carried over 75% of Raw's audience, a lot lower than usual. It did only drop 6% year to year, which may have something to do with it being so close to a national holiday in the States. This year it was 2 days before 4th of July, and last year SmackDown was the day before, and that may have affected both numbers.
Possibly.
Yeah. So next up we have NXT, and we opened with Mia Yim versus Aaliyah. This was not a great way to open the show. Mia actually frightened Aaliyah to the mat at one point, which was hilarious. Aaliyah somehow still can't even take a competent bump from a drop kick. Aaliyah got the upper hand after Bourne pulled her out the way of an incoming cannonball from Mia. Mia fought back and locked the tarantula in, but then ate an enziguri for a near fall. Mia hit the cannonball, followed by a belly-to-belly, which sent Aaliyah to the floor. Mia hit a tope suicida on both her and Bourne. The fall-away slam connected, followed by protect your neck for the win. This was not very good, but it's unfair to expect Mia to work miracles. Post-match, Yim throws Bourne into the steel steps and asks her who's a lower now. She then heads to the commentary desk and calls out Shayna.
Literally, what else could she have done?
No.
Like, she was given very little to work with, and she did it what she could do.
Yeah. So we recap the Io Shayna match and Io turning on Candice from last week. We then cut to Kathy Kelly, who was with William Regal. Regal starts to talk about Candice's condition, but the Forgotten Sons burst in, upset about last week's match. Regal says their actions last week have put them at the back of the queue. They storm out as Jackson Riker says they won't forget this. Kathy asks Regal who is in line for his title match against the Street Profits. Regal says he spoke to the Street Profits earlier and they suggested Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan.
Yes.
And that match will take place next week. And we're back for something that came very, very close to sealing segment of the week. And given how good that Joe Kofi promo was, this was awesome.
I know what you're going to say.
It's more of Adam Cole's Baby Championship Celebration Tour. We pick up where we left off last week as Cole walks into Gargano's Pizzeria. Apparently, this is Johnny's dad's place. Cole puts up a picture of himself on the wall of fame. He then tips up at a wrestling school that Johnny had done a speech at. He mocks the performers, including Twan Tucker from AIW, which was kind of cool, then tells them to find themselves a new hero and get out of this city as he leaves. I mean, it is Cleveland. The Browns suck, the Cavs suck.
The Browns don't suck.
To be fair, the Browns
I'm
probably
a Browns fan.
The Browns are going to be probably
really
good this year.
The Browns are going to be in the division this season. So.
And as a Jets fan, I probably shouldn't talk
exactly,
about that.
So wind your neck in. There's nothing wrong with Cleveland. I'm a Browns fan. Wind your neck in. It's been a long time coming. We're finally good again.
Yeah.
It's only been since like 19...
Watches go 1-15 this season now.
80...
We haven't got time to think about it.
1980s.
So this was awesome, this segment. Absolutely awesome. And then Kushida versus Scott Parker of 3.0 fame. This was a quick squash. Kushida hit the cartwheel dropkick, the Tanaka punch, and then locks on the hoverboard lock, which is now being called the Sakuraba lock for the tap out victory. Cool name change for the finisher.
Very good. I am very in support of that.
Yes, and Mauro made a point of referencing that it was the Sakuraba.
The Kazushi Sakuraba.
Absolutely.
The Gracie Hunter.
Yes. So Kathy approaches Tyler backstage and asks him where his mind is ahead of his match with Roderick Strong tonight. He says Undisputed Era want to take credit for this brand, so he wants to remind them that this is NX Breeze. So we then get a creepy looking Killian Dane vignette, which was cool. And then we had Cameron Grimes, a.k.a. Trevor Lee, versus Isaiah Scott, a.k.a. Shane Strickland / Killshot. Scott got the upper hand after a beautiful head scissors takeover. Grimes fought back after grabbing the hair. The crowd was absolutely dead for this, which was a shame because this was actually really well worked.
Yeah.
Grimes lariated Scott halfway to hell during the heat. He then headed up top but got caught with a no-hands Hurricane Rana from Scott. Grimes sent Scott over the top, but he did a handstand from the apron to the floor in an impressive display of athleticism, just kind of insane. The rolling flatliner got a near fall for Scott. He went for the double stomp, but Grimes took him into a backslide, then transitioned into a sit-out powerbomb for 2. He hit a Superman punch, but Scott fought back with some strikes and followed with an awkward-looking Fosbury flop. They traded strikes, and Grimes hit the fall-away moonsault, followed by the running double stomp for the win. A good showcase for both men, and Trevor Lee / Cameron Grimes moves on in the tournament.
Really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And I've always liked Trevor Lee.
Yeah.
And I hope he can go quite far.
Totally agree. And next up we had Bianca Belair versus Priscilla Zuniga. They both showed disrespect at the start. Bianca hits 2 power bombers followed by an inverted buckle bomb and then the KOD for the win. This was absolutely fine and showed a great intensity and aggressive streak that I don't think we've seen before from Bianca.
The heel turn just continues.
Yeah.
Love it.
So we get a video on Matt Riddle where he talks about all the different combat training he does. He says he was told not to fight because he was too pretty, but he trains every day to be better. This was fine, but the sound on his theme music, which was playing in the background, and Riddle's tone of voice made it really difficult to hear what he was saying.
Yeah.
Like an unusual faux pas in that area for WWE's production.
Production's always great.
Yeah. And there's been a few screw-ups recently, like the Superstar Shaker where they showed the Usos thing before the Usos came out, and then this week they showed the Street Profits backstage at the start of the show, which spoiled them being there.
It's almost like they're not prepared for everything.
Mm-hmm. But NXT
Imagine
should
that.
be. NXT is...
Because it's pre-taped.
Yeah, and this was just weird.
Yeah.
Maybe they just couldn't save the segment and they didn't have time to get Riddle back in to redo it, but it wasn't great.
I would assume that, because otherwise they would have.
So then we had our main event of Roderick Strong versus Tyler Breeze. Roddy is out without the rest of Undisputed Era, which I thought was interesting, but played into things later. They trade control early, with neither man being able to maintain control for long until Roddy hits a vicious-looking backbreaker on the ring steps on Breeze. Seriously, I don't envy Tyler Breeze, and he's back after this.
We just don't wrestle Roderick Strong.
Yeah. This allows Roddy to take control as a particularly beetroot-faced fan screams at Roddy to get him back in the ring. He was very aggressive. Roddy works a nice heat segment until Breeze hits an enziguri, which sends Roddy to the outside. He follows with an arm capture version of the backstabber, which was really nice. Breeze heads up top but gets caught with an enziguri. Roddy follows him up and after winning a strike battle hits a beautiful superplex for 2. Breeze goes for a slingshot-style maneuver but gets caught on Roddy's shoulders. Breeze fights out and hits a slightly clumsy version of the Marufuji heel hook kick that Ospreay uses so well, and obviously Marufuji uses so well. Like hence why it's called the Marufuji hook kick.
The back super kick thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
He just didn't do it as well.
Moves in a way that it should not normally move.
He just didn't do it. He didn't do it as well as either Marufuji or Ospreay do.
Yeah.
So Roddy counters the unprettier and they trade strikes until Breeze hits an enziguri. He heads up top again, but down come Fish and O'Reilly. The distraction allows Roddy to hit End of Heartache for the win. This was a very good main event. Very, very enjoyable.
Loved it. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Breeze loses another match. This is clearly a storyline moving forward. And Roddy can now move towards a North American title picture as well.
Yeah. So, decent episode of NXT this week. Some really good, some not so good, but a really fun main event. And that Adam Cole segment made this a really good show.
NXT, awesome as always.
And next up we have 205 Live.
Yes.
We open with Tony Nese, Jack Gallagher and Oney Lorcan, and they talk about the 6-man tag main event for tonight. And then we open with a tornado tag match between the Lucha House Party and the Singh Brothers. Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado are the two for Lucha House Party in this match. Metalik actually screws up a ropes move, which is a huge rarity. So put that in your collector's item album. He covers it up well though, and the Lucha House Party hits some double teams for a near fall. The Singh Brothers eventually get the heat on Metalik, and we actually end up with a chin lock in a tornado tag match. Unbelievable.
Rest holds.
Yeah. They hit a backbreaker elbow drop combo, but Dorado saves Metalik at 2.9. Metalik hits a reverse sling blade as the Lucha House Party start to fight back. Lindsay Dorado runs wild on both Singh brothers, and the top rope crossbody gets 2. He hits a golden rewind, and Metalik and Dorado follow with simultaneous dives. They both springboard directly into super kicks, though. The Singh brothers try to use a trophy, but when Kalisto grabs it from them, they get taken out, and Metalik hits an elbow drop as Dorado lands a shooting star press, and they both pin the Singh brothers for the win. This was not very good. I hope this feud's over. In fact, if both teams disappeared, I wouldn't be upset about it.
Yeah, so...
The Singh brothers can completely disappear. The Lucha House Party should split up so Grand Metalik can go on to become the star he should be.
Yes, so first off, I was like, I'm happy that Lucha House Party won, but the feud needs to die. And I was quite happy when the Singhs got their chance in 205 Live, but it's been proven to be a waste of time. Lucha House Party needs to split up because Grand Metalik should be at the top of that division.
And Kalisto's really good as well. Lindsay Dorado's okay. Kalisto's good. And Metalik's fantastic.
Yeah. Like, the amount of times that I have booked on my own the Cruiserweight title division from the beginning.
Yeah.
Several times. And every single time I book it, I plan for Metalik to be a star in that division. Because he's clearly...
Oh, he's fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic.
Clearly fantastic.
It just boggles my mind that...
No one notices.
Yeah. So we get an Humberto Carrillo vignette, and then Sarah Schreiber interviews Mike Kanellis backstage and asks Mike about the Maria situation. He and Maria aren't talking right now. He's disappointed in Drake Maverick and blames him for not giving him the opportunities he deserves, which has caused the rift between him and Maria. He says Drake will pay for the damage he has done to his family, and he will prove to Maria tonight that he is indeed man enough. And with that, we go to our main event, which pitted Tony Nese, Jack Gallagher and Oni Lorcan against Mike Kanellis, Arya Daivari and Drew Gulak. We see Maria watching on from backstage. The heels isolate Oni Lorcan until he gets a tag to Nese. Nese runs wild with a great hot tag, but sadly the crowd is dead. Nese goes for the springboard triangle moonsault on Daivari, but in an awesome spot, Gulak literally pushes him just in as Nese is in midair. Gulak just pushes him flying to the outside onto Nese's own partners. Awesome spot.
Yeah.
This allows the heels to isolate Nese, and Gulak murders him with a huge lariat. Daivari hits an iconoclasm on Nese from Gulak's shoulders for a near fall, which was a nice spot as the faces break the pin up. Everybody brawls, but the ref gets control quickly and the heels continue isolating Nese. Nese counters an Irish whip into a pump handle driver on Gulak and gets the hot tag to Lorcan, who runs wild. He hits a running blockbuster on Daivari for 2. Gallagher tags in and they utilise some double teams for a near fall. Lorcan hits a huge dive to the outside, followed by Daivari hitting a top rope crossbody to the outside, and then Nese hitting a Fosbury flop onto everyone. This leaves Gallagher as the only one standing, and he pulls out the umbrella and dives onto the pile. He follows with a top rope elbow drop on Daivari, but Gulak breaks it up at 2. Gulak tags in as Daivari and Lorcan battle to the back. Mike gets a blind tag and Nese misses a 450 on Gulak, but when Kanellis covers Nese, he kicks out at 2. He goes for the crossroads, but Nese hits the jig and tonic for the win. Immediately after the bell rings, Gulak attacks Nese. Daivari and Lorcan return, and all 6 men brawl as the show goes off the air in chaos. This was a really, really good main event.
Really good episode. Yeah, really good main event. Really good episode.
I thought it was an okay episode. There was not much in the way of backstage segments, and the opening match was kind of average, but the main event was really, really good, and I really enjoyed the closing angle with everybody brawling.
205 Live main events tend to be what carries the show as a whole. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So with that, we will move on to any other business, and I've got a mini review of Fyter Fest for you, because I know we said we weren't going to do a recap show for it, but I figure we need to cover it in some detail. So it was kind of a mixed pre-show. Best Friends defeated SCU and Private Party, which was excellent. Private Party looked good, which was nice. Ali defeated Leva Bates, which was really quite boring, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
and the librarian gimmick sucks.
Gimmick, like it. People are saying it's getting over with the live crowd, but like
it's not getting over with me.
Man, it sucks. Yeah. I don't like it, and they need to drop it quickly.
Yeah,
like it's like it. Melter said it was. It's almost too cute. Like it's not good.
They just need to drop
Ali is fantastic. Like I'm a big fan of hers.
And you know what? Liv is a good worker as well. It was just a boring, dull, nothing happening match.
Yeah, and the gimmick drags it down.
You know the biggest thing I got out of this? Brandy watched the TV.
Yeah.
Properly. So she watched TV from backstage watching the alley match, and she watched it like a human being.
She didn't stand side on.
Actually,
so Angle TV's worse.
I think it was on Being the Elite that made fun of it because they had
everyone standing.
QT Marshall, I think it was, came up behind Brandy just after obviously the shot had been taken of Brandy watching the alley match and said, "Brandy, that's not how you watch the TV." And he turns to stand like the WWE.
You stand side on.
Yeah, and she goes, "Oh, thanks, I can see everything so much better now." It was really funny. So then we had Michael Nakazawa defeat Alex Jabali in a comedy match at the end of the pre-show. Now, I know this wasn't for everybody, and I heard sort of different versions on it. But to me, it was just a fun comedy match. It's on the pre-show. Nobody really cares. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
When you're trying to make yourself a serious promotion, it's not what I would do.
It's a pre-show. Who cares?
Yeah, but it's not what I would do.
It's once a year at Fyter Fest. Like, you know, how ROH did, you know, ROH in 2006 would do some incredible comedy stuff.
I know.
They were a serious promotion.
It's just not what I would do.
I thought it was enjoyable anyway. But on to the main show. Shima defeated Daniels. This was a good opener. Both guys still have a lot to offer.
Yeah, Shima is still good, and Daniels is Daniels.
Yeah. And Shima versus Omega should be quite fun, actually, at Fight for the Fallen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing Shima be Shima.
Mm-hmm. So then we had a triple threat match, which saw Riho defeat Yuka Sakazaki and Nyla Rose. This was fun, and they played to everyone's strengths. Riho is great.
Riho is we said, didn't we? We thought Riho was the star.
Yeah.
She is. Yeah. Riho's awesome.
But they accentuated everybody's strength in here. Like, Nyla came out looking a lot better than I thought she did coming out of the Fatal 4-Weight Double or Nothing, because they played to our strengths in this match. Adam Page defeated Jimmy Havoc, MJF, and Jungle Boy. This was good too. Page picks up the win as expected. Jungle Boy got over. MJF's pre-match promo was fun, but not something I can repeat on this podcast. Havoc didn't get much, but he's very good. He'll be fine.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah. Cody versus Darby went to a time limit draw. This was great and made Darby Allin look very good and established the draw as an acceptable results. Two things I didn't like. The trust fall onto the apron spot from Darby Allin is just brutal, and I don't need to see that ever again.
No, it was sick.
And the one other thing I don't need to see ever again was the post-match with Shaw. So Sean Spears turned heel as he walloped Cody with an unprotected chair shot to the head. Apparently, Tony Khan said in the scrum it was a gimmick chair and something just went wrong. But just, you know what? It's not worth the risk. Just don't do unprotected chair shots to the head. Just don't do it.
There was also, like, Meltzer referred to it. He said that they didn't make enough of a deal of Allin taking Cody again in the last couple of minutes.
I kind of disagree with them there.
I need to watch it again because I didn't really notice it. But
if you remember, what was one of my biggest bugbears with the CM Punk versus Christopher Daniels time limit draw on ROH during the summer of Punk.
It
was too telegraphed.
You knew it was coming.
You knew it was coming. So I hate when commentators overdo it. And I thought they mentioned the time limit a couple of times, but they didn't hit you over the head with it. And what kept it in your head without hitting you over the head with it as well is, and one thing I really liked about that, they were announcing the intervals, but they were doing that in every match. So it didn't stand out in this one that you were going, we're clearly doing a time limit. Yeah. So all of a sudden we got close to the time limit now, and oh my God. And all of a sudden, with like 2 minutes left, I realised they're going to do a draw here. And it was really, really cool. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good match. It made Darby Allin look really good, and it didn't hurt Cody.
Yeah, and we'll see where Sean Spears goes as a heel, because we've never seen that before.
Which, you know what, I really wish they hadn't done the unprotected chair shot, because I think a lot of people would have been talking about the Sean Spears heel turn if it hadn't been for the fact that everybody was then talking about the unprotected chair shot.
The problem for me is that, like, when I look at like Ty Dillinger or Sean Spears, like, I just see babyface for life.
True, but we'll see how it goes.
Give it a chance. Yeah. AEW have given enough goodwill that I will give anything they do a chance now.
So then we had the Elite defeat the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kids. This was easily the best thing on the show. Really, really good match. Thoroughly enjoyable. Exactly what you would expect from these six. It was balls to the wall from the start.
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter gimmick. Yeah, the entrance was cool. Yeah, work. Again, so not something I'd do year round, but worked for Fyter Fest, given where they were.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So then we had a main event of Jon Moxley defeating Joey Janela. This was good. They worked hard and did some crazy stuff. It wasn't
not as bad as you thought.
Wasn't quite as crazy as I expected with these two, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Only thing is, like, why? It's the same problem I had with ECW and FMW at times, or CCW almost constantly. Just
violence for violence sake.
Why are you having this ultra-violent match? Like, I don't have a problem with ultra-violent matches.
Like, if this was the end of a blood feud, then fine.
Bobby Roode, GM Storm at Bound for Glory in 2012.
Yeah.
That was very, very violent.
Yeah.
Like, thumbtacks, beer bottles, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was the end of a blood feud, so I was fine with it.
Yeah.
What was one of our favourite matches last year? Dante Fox versus Killshot.
Oh, that was a season-long blood feud.
One of the most, arguably, it might be one of the most violent matches I've ever seen.
Oh,
way more violent than this.
It was
disgusting.
Like, we felt uncomfortable watching it, but
in a good way.
But it made sense for it to happen.
Yeah, and it was a phenomenal match. But this just didn't feel like it needed to happen.
Yeah, it's like doing any match on Raw and it being, like some kind of death match. It just makes no sense.
Yeah. And then Omega attacked Moxley post-match and eventually laid him out after a brawl to build their match at All Out. That was good closing segment. And the latest card for AEW's next show, Fight for the Fallen, currently has 4 matches. The Young Bucks versus the Rhodes Brothers, Kenny Omega versus Shima, Brandy Rhodes versus Ali, Jimmy Havoc, Joey Janela and Darby Allin versus MJF, Sammy Guevara and Sean Spears. MJF did not seem happy about that. Did you see what he said on Twitter? I thought that was awesome because he's supposed to be Cody's friend and now he's having to team with Sean Spears and he's not happy about it.
I love MJF.
Really well done.
I love MJF.
And there's actually a 5th match which I've forgotten right in here, which is Hangman Page versus Kip Sabian. So interesting.
They all look great.
That's next weekend. We'll see what that show brings.
Cannot wait.
Interestingly, on this week's Road to Fight for the Fallen, Brandy cut an absolutely amazing promo talking about her history as a figure skater and how she always gets up in her own head and that it's cost her so much in her own career and how she really wants to get out of that mindset because she feels like she's done it during her pro wrestling career as well. If you haven't seen it, go out your way and watch the episode.
I haven't seen it. I'll make sure I do.
Because I genuinely think it's one of the best promos I've seen this year.
Cool.
And I've never been a massive Brandy fan, but it was really, really good. Raw this coming week, the only match I've seen announced is Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch versus Andrade and Zelina Vega.
Right.
Should be fine. Seth and Andrade getting together should be cool.
Either way, like more Heyman stuff. Fingers crossed, more Heyman control, more good stuff.
Really, really cool matches being announced for WXW show in Toronto on the 9th of August. Volta versus Daisuke Sekimoto.
Oh my God.
That match is going to be incredible.
That is just like, who's going to die more?
I don't know, but is the name of that match just murder?
Hospital times 1,000. Yes. Like,
awesome.
I genuinely can't imagine who has more punishment in that match.
It's gonna be
like I've loved Sekimoto.
I'm gonna have to find a way to watch that match.
Oh, we should review that at some point and just include like it'll be like an R-rated match.
So AAA have announced their Triple Mania card. Can I just read one match for you?
Feel free.
So Tejano Jr., Taurus, and a mystery partner will be taking on Cody Rhodes, Psycho Clown, and Cain Velasquez in a 6-man tag. Is that not the most random trios team you've ever heard?
Yeah.
What? Apart from that, there will also be a rematch pitting the Elite against the Lucha Bros and Laredo Kid, which we've just seen from Fyter Fest, as well as a main event of Blue Demon Jr. against Dr. Wagner Jr. in a mask versus hair match at the show. Neither of those guys can go anymore, but the crowd's going to go nuts for it, I can just tell.
Yeah.
And finally, Evolve have released the full card for their 10th anniversary celebration show. Adam Cole defending the NXT title against Akira Tozawa, and Matt Riddle versus Drew Gulak in a non-title match are the standout matches on the card. So we're going to go to our final segment in a minute, which we'll be talking about the G1 Climax, but we are going to a wrestling show tomorrow night, so we're going to...
Yes, we are.
Prog on the Tyne, Progress's latest chapter, which will be taking place in Newcastle. So we will have a mini review of that probably next week.
Yeah, maybe next week.
We are talking about potentially trying to fit in a Slammiversary / first day of G1 Climax review show.
Because we think that Slammiversary looks really good.
And the G1 Climax is the G1 Climax.
Yes.
So we're probably going to try and review that at some point next week, but we'll have to see how our schedules align. So if we can, we'll do that show for you. If we can't, we do apologise, but we will cover it in some element on the weekly pod if that's the case. But we will let you know as time comes.
Yeah, and like Prog on the Tyne looks absolutely fantastic. Like I've been wanting to see a Progress show for years. Mm-hmm. It's always been down south or in Manchester. I've never got to see it. Obviously, there are lots and lots and lots of matches. They are going to be opening with More Than Hype versus Do Not Resuscitate. Then we're going to get Connor Mills against Jern Simmons. We'll then get Candy Floss against Holidead.
Did you see Candy Floss's promo?
Yeah, it was really good, wasn't it?
I kind of liked it. Yeah, she's a little bit uncomfortable on the mic, but like the stuff she said was quite cool. I like this.
We'll then get Primate against Paul Robinson, which I imagine will be violent.
Very violent.
Brent Banks against a guy that we both love, David Starr.
Yeah, that should be cool.
Jordan Devlin and Ilya Dragunov.
That's easily the thing I'm most excited for on the show.
And then Valder defending the Unified World Championship against Eddie Kingston of CZW fame.
I'm not a massive Eddie Kingston fan, but that match is going to be violent as hell.
It is, yeah.
It's going to be brutal.
I'm going to be excited tomorrow night. I'm going to put it that way.
Yes, should be good.
Can't wait.
So with that, we'll move on to our final segment. And the idea behind this final segment was we were going to do the G1 predictions. But obviously we can't run through every match because it would take us forever. So what I said to Jonathan was, why don't we predict the first night of A Block, since it's tomorrow night, as we're recording this podcast. And then we'll predict the finals, i.e. who gets there and who wins the said final. But we came up with exactly the same winner. We came up with exactly the same finals. And not only that, but we came up with exactly the same results for the first night of A Block. It was kind of insane.
So on the first night.
So what we've decided to do is we're going to post our full predictions on Twitter once Jonathan has finally fleshed his out, because he hasn't written all the matches down yet. I've got mine done all the way through, and then whoever gets the most match results right will earn 3 points in the predictions game, because the G1 Climax is so difficult to predict.
And now one of our favourite things of the year.
Absolutely. So the G1 predictions that we are going to do is we'll just run through what we think for A Block tomorrow night. So we both think Will Ospreay is going to defeat Lance Archer.
Ospreay's having a huge G1 as well.
Yeah. Evil versus Fale is going to go to Evil, we think. We think Zack Sabre Jr. will defeat Sonata.
Yeah, he needs big wins. I think they're coming.
And interestingly, we both think Kenta is going to go over Kota Ibushi.
I just think in terms of making him credible.
Yeah, out of the gate.
Ibushi is still going to win the block, I think.
Yeah.
But I think Kenta wins that.
Yeah.
And then that can be a match later down the line.
And the one thing I'm a bit on the fence of, but it made sense in how I was building towards who was still involved in the final day and whatnot. We've both gone for Kazuchika Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi ending in a draw. I do wonder whether they'll do that because it is the main event, and the idea of ending their show on a draw in the States does seem a bit weird. But New Japan just tends to book how New Japan would book regardless of where they are. So,
and it makes a title match down the line. Come on. That makes a title match. And Okada Tana sells and draws no matter where you go.
And we've both, I think, got Ibushi winning the A Block, which I'm almost certain of. Yeah. And then we've both got Naito winning the B Block, which I'm not as certain of, but I do think it will happen.
It's going to be, for me, it's going to be either Naito or Jay White.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm very on the fence.
Moxley will push them close.
Yeah, totally agree. So,
and the winner is going to be... we both agree it's Kota Ibushi by a mile.
Yeah, I think that's
if he doesn't win, I'll be shocked.
I will be really surprised. It feels like it's his year.
Yeah, he's got the full-time contract. It's his time. He needs to win, and he needs to win the title at West Kingdom.
So Jonathan's going to do his prediction, and I will send him mine tonight, and then he can post them both on the Twitter Twitter feed, so you can see where our predictions do lie within that.
Yep.
I will try and get this podcast up as soon as possible, but it is quite late this evening, and I'm not sure I'll get it up tonight, and we are obviously at the Progress Show tomorrow, so it may be Sunday before this podcast goes up, but I will try and get it up as soon as possible. We will let you know whether we're going to do a Slammiversary/G1 pod as soon as we possibly can.
We'll do it on the Twitter. I'll let everyone know if we're going to be doing one.
Absolutely. So with that being said, is there anything you'd like to say before we get out of here, Jonathan?
I'm going to go with you.
Sorry, we're out of time. We will see you next week at some point on the Two Man Booth.